Recently, I got third in a massive competitive Splatoon 3 tournament. The tournament is known as Full Wipe and it's one of the largest community-run tournaments within the French Splatoon scene. In the award ceremony, you would see myself and my teammates Kiva, Sebdark, and Snipes walking onto the stage accepting our medals, and also you would notice that I am holding my Nintendo Switch Pro Controller. What if I was to tell you that was not an official Nintendo Switch Pro Controller that we all already know of? Of course, you'd notice the colors are all different, and it's not anything different from any other of my custom controllers that have different kinds of colors and all that. But the thing is, I need to let you guys know, in terms of how this works as a Pro Controller, this is by far the greatest Nintendo Switch Pro Controller for competitive players. Guys, I need to introduce you to the ProGCC 3.2. The keyword, of course, is competitive players, and I want to talk to you guys about what makes the ProGCC so different in comparison to a regular Nintendo Switch Pro Controller. Well, first off, it's made by a company known as Handheld Legends, and they actually sent me this controller on the same day when I actually went to fly to this specific tournament. And hearing what it's claimed to do, I thought, what better way to debut this controller within an actual tournament? What does the ProGCC actually do? It's not about how the outside looks, it's the internals inside it. The ProGCC is using a different motherboard or PCB compared to the regular Nintendo Switch Pro Controller. The ProGCC basically has custom firmware known as FrameSync, and to get techie with it, basically what they're saying is that the regular Nintendo Switch Pro Controller, when connected via USB, typically performs at 8 milliseconds. The thing about this is that this is an actual problem for a regular Nintendo Switch Pro Controller that leads to a desync between the USB rates and the frame rate of the game. The motherboard dynamically adjusts the USB rates to perfectly match the frame rate of the games, making all your inputs that are coming from your controller as accurate as possible. Now, that might have just sounded like a lot of jargon to you guys, so here's a very easy way to understand what the ProGCC will actually do for you. You guys know that I despise input lag, and I've talked about it so much on my channel, and it's been a thing that's plagued us for the last 8 years while playing Splatoon. One of those things I wish that regular Nintendo Switch Pro controllers did is that if you could connect it via the USB and use Pro wired communication to eliminate any input lag and have consistent inputs. However, on a regular Nintendo Switch Pro controller, that will add 1 or 2 frames of extra input lag. But my friends, this thing does not do that. This controller actually fixes that issue, and you can play using wired Pro communication with absolutely no problems and no hiccups and no interference. Which I have to say, this is a massive game changer, because I know for a fact anybody who is watching this video that has gone to a Splatoon LAN in any capacity has noticed that there's interference while just playing wirelessly, or of course, having to deal with the extra frames of input lag using USB Pro wired communication. Using this thing for the first time and using the Pro wired communication, testing it during a tournament at first time, it's kind of crazy to actually do that, but I can confidently say that this thing actually works. So yes, this controller is absolutely incredible, and it was actually made with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate in mind, because at the same time, any person who plays any games competitively on the Nintendo Switch has to deal with this issue. So they made it specifically for Super Smash Bros. To make sure that the inputs are way more consistent and, of course, as little input lag as possible. You'll still have those 6 milliseconds, but they will be the most consistent 6 milliseconds as you've ever seen possible. And while that's a thing, I mean, this thing also works incredibly for Splatoon, and especially its gyro input, because this was the thing that actually shocked me, because this gyro input is, I can't even put it into words. It's just leagues better than how the Nintendo Switch Pro controller right now operates. This is via wireless connection and USB at the same time. I've done reviews on many different third-party controllers, the Fusion Pro from PowerA, the Hori controller, the PowerA Nano, the regular PowerA. I've done a bunch of different controller reviews. All of these controllers have had good gyro input to some degree, but something about it has always made me want to go back to the regular Nintendo Switch Pro controller. This, my friend, the gyro input on this specific controller is leagues better than every other controller that I have used in the last 8 years. On top of that, we can talk about all the other features that it also has, like the Hall sensing joysticks from GuillaKit. It's compatible with Nintendo Switch, PC, Android, and Chrome. X input is supported. Of course, gyro control, which is much better than the regular Pro controller. It has HD rumble. It has RGB LED. It has automatic snapback filter for your sticks. And it has this really cool haptic feedback when you click onto the triggers. It actually has a little rumble to it. Of course, you can turn it on or off because, of course, this thing has its own configuration tool. When you connect this thing to your PC, the tool to be able to customize the whole thing pops up. So it's actually on a web browser too, which is very helpful. All you have to do is just connect to it, connect ProGCC 3.2, and you can pretty much customize the controller however you want. You can remap the controller in any way you want. You can change up the joysticks however you want, of course, changing the dead zones. You can change it from left and right at the same time. You can turn the snapback filter on and off if you want to, depends on how you feel. You can calibrate it on this software. You can change the RGB, you can change the brightness, the animation time, you can change the effects of it so it can turn into like a little rainbow thing. You can change it to the react mode, which is actually, I think is really cool. So just to show you, so as you can see, every single time I press a button, the button actually lights up on the controller itself, which looks really cool. And of course, you can enable and disable gyro if you please. You can calibrate it as well. You could literally do everything with this controller. It's actually low-key just really impressive that this controller even exists. And the really sad thing is that I wish we knew about this controller a long time ago, because this is something that probably would have made me want to play competitive Splatoon a whole lot more often than I currently do now. I mean, honestly, playing on this, I actually want to play it even more. I think actually today I'm actually going to be playing a tournament because I want to try this controller even more, because this by far is the most consistent I've ever felt playing on Splatoon 3 specifically. It's a bit of a shame because, of course, I've played the Nintendo Switch 2 and I've tried how the Switch 2 Pro controller actually feels, and the Switch 2 Pro controller, at least for the games I played, felt really good. It's just the thing that, man, I really wish that Nintendo could have figured out some way to actually fix that USB connection with your regular Pro controller. Because if it did, that in itself would have solved a whole lot of issues that I personally had with playing Splatoon. I love Splatoon, but there are just several things that have made me really resent playing it because of due to the latency that comes with the playing on the Nintendo Switch or its Pro controller. This is a chart made by Handheld Legends just to show you the difference between the regular Switch Pro controller and the ProGCC and its wireless model. This is basically the lag comparisons. As you can see, it's 6 frames all around on just the ProGCC if you are using the USB mode, but if you're using the Switch Pro controller using the USB mode, it does 7 to 8 frames. Where the ProGCC is a consistent 6 frames all around. Like of course, the Nintendo Switch itself has lag, which of course that's just a big issue in itself, and this controller is definitely not going to be able to solve it. However, it will make playing on the Nintendo Switch way more consistent. While I was in France, I actually had a handful of players to actually try out this specific controller. Like I had Kiva try out the controller, and the first thing he said is that this thing is way more accurate. I had one of my teammates known as Snipes to try out the controller. He's like one of the greatest pencil users in the Western Splatoon scene, maybe UK bias, but the thing that he said is just that, what have you done to this controller to make it feel so good? I also had the opinions of several other competitive players to try out this controller, and they pretty much everyone was saying the same thing, that this is just a different controller that feels way nicer than a regular Nintendo Switch Pro controller. I've spoken extremely highly about this controller and all the positive things about it during this entire video. Are there some negatives about it? So there are a few negatives, and it's very few things to really talk about. So one thing, which honestly I wouldn't even really say is a huge negative, but it's just that it doesn't really work like how a regular Nintendo Switch Pro controller would work. Like if you connect it straight up and you try to turn the console on, you can't turn the console on using the controller itself. Another negative I would say is that the wireless performance on this specific controller is probably more prone to wireless interference in comparison to a regular Switch Pro controller. However, if there is no wireless interference, wireless works amazingly on this. That might be a bit of a bummer, but the thing is that if you're able to use this as a wired controller for your Nintendo Switch, you're not going to have any issues anyway, because just playing this widely and the feedback and the control and the how it feels, how gyro feels in this thing is just leagues better than any other controller that I have ever used. Now, the last issue is specifically to playing this in tournament and on LAN. And it's not necessarily the controller's fault, it's more so Splatoon 3's fault, because when you're in LAN play, if you try to basically change your gear or anything like that, there's a message in the game that actually turns off and then turns on pro-wide communication for the Nintendo Switch. I don't know why they do that in LAN mode. It has made no sense. But the thing is that when that does happen, you basically can't use the controller straight away. Like, you're gonna have to connect another controller to then change all your gear and all that type of stuff. And basically you would have to reconnect this controller in the change grip order just really, really quickly, which should not take you any time at all. It'll take you like 5 seconds, but that's just something to be mindful of, is that when you are playing this within tournament, or if you are playing within tournament, that is something that you have to watch out for. But other than that, those are pretty much the only real negative things if we're buying it for Splatoon 3. So yes, this controller is absolutely amazing for Splatoon 3. Like I said, the PCB for this controller is for competitive players, and 100% it just makes it much easier to play Splatoon. The thing that I'm a little bit worried about and hoping for is just that, will this thing work for the Nintendo Switch 2? It probably will. I mean, of course, don't quote me, but considering the regular Switch Pro controller will be compatible with the Nintendo Switch 2, I can't see this not also being compatible with, of course, it having a Switch mode, and of course, being able to update the firmware to be able to allow it to work for the Nintendo Switch 2. So we'll just have to wait and see up until that point. Don't quote me on that, of course, but it will be just something to look out for if you do consider getting this. And of course, if you do consider getting this Quick Pro controller, there's a link in the description to Handheld Legends website. And of course, on checkout, you can use code DUDE10 to get 10% off your order. And of course, if you do use my code, it'll be supporting myself and my channel. So of course, guys, if you want to get the PCB and the conversion kit, there's a link in the description below. If you want to build one to order and put all your own custom colors and all that type of stuff, of course, there's also a link in the description below where you can do that too. And of course, on the Handheld Legends website, you can buy all these different parts and colors for your own Pro controller if you'd like to basically customize it in however you'd want to. So pretty much that is all I gotta say. If you need any help with your ProGCC, Handheld Legends has a really, really helpful wiki, which basically has a user guide on how to use the controller in every single way. It's very, very simple, and you'll be able to remember it pretty easily. And pretty much, guys, that's all I gotta say. I mean, this controller, like I said, is quite literally the best Nintendo Switch Pro controller that is currently available right now. And if you want it, of course, links in the description. So thank you so much, guys, for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed. And man, I really wish I had this earlier. So appreciate it, guys. Make sure to subscribe and like the video if you liked it. And I'll see you guys in a future video.